I have no doubt that ReZero is probably one of the worst anime of the decade, and one of the worst I've seen in my life. How can a piece of work that only has 25 episodes be so incredibly bad and mediocre? How is it possible this anime fails at every single thing it tries to incorporate in such a terrible way? Boy oh boy, do we have a video on our hands. So this is something that I've been wanting to do for a while. Kind of go over 1-star to very low rating reviews of ReZero. Because I think everybody that, watches my channel knows I am a huge fan of ReZero, but it's always interesting seeing the other side, getting to see what other people think about one of your favorite series, and I always am someone that says there's nothing wrong with disliking a story. If you dislike, let's say, ReZero, for example, there's nothing wrong with that, because obviously the story is not going to be for everyone. That's just how it is. And this can be basically said for anything out there. For any anime, for any game, for any show, for honestly any activity, this entire statement can be said. Just sometimes it's not for you, and that's how it is. And no matter how good it is, just there will be individuals that just will not like it. So let's get right into it. So basically, I'm going to be going over a few reviews that I kind of, looked at, I thought was kind of funny, and I just want to talk about because I just legitimately think it's just like, wow, like seeing how people react to the show and how they feel about it is fascinating, and were they harsh or were they correct about their overall assessment of how ReZero was as a series? Now, to make sure we all are on the same page, the reviews I'm going to be going over is from Season 1. This is not Season 2 reviews. This is basically people that watched Season 1 and then probably effectively dropped it, never to come back to watch Season 2. So that is something to keep in your mind while we're, doing this video. Another thing as well, I wanted to do this video because obviously, despite all the people that I want to be going over that probably didn't like ReZero, let's be honest, let's cross our fingers that, ReZero Season 3, it's going to be happening. Let's hope. Let's have that copium. Let's have that hopium. Let's hope Anime Japan 2023, in like a week or two from now, reveals ReZero Season 3. Let's honestly hope that happens. But okay, with all that out of the way, with the disclaimer out of the way of what's going on with the video, let's just dive into these reviews, and let's just see if there's anything good about it, like for instance things we can agree on, or things that are just outright wrong. Let's not waste any time. This show is Subaru. But why is it? When I was watching, I thought it could be one of the two possibilities. One, not unlike Apple with the iPhone 7, the creators were seeing just how bad of a product they could intentionally make and still have people fall for it. Number two, the show was written by somebody no older than 15 who was trying really hard to look way smarter than he actually is. So what's wrong with it? I want to say everything, because there is no facet of the series that is well executed. The episodes follow a predictable structure, 20 minutes of slice of life, and then a crazy plot twist during the last 2 minutes. This is because the protagonist goes back in time after dying, so the idea is that he dies at the end in a very surprising way, and then you get to rewatch the same time period as he tries to change things in order to survive. The concept isn't bad, there is potential here, but the execution is bad. And the lead up to Subaru dying, it is just so tremendously boring. The amount of rambling and forced attempts at humor fall short of delivering any kind of entertainment whatsoever. But sometimes during the non-twist part of the show, you get a break from the bad comedy, and you get an action scene. This is where it really tests your patience, because it's profoundly annoying, not just bad. Whenever there's a combat scene, you get maybe 5 seconds of action, and then the characters pause to talk to each other, probably for a good minute. Can you imagine a battle in medieval times, and after a few sword blows traded, both armies pause and start talking smack? Sounds... It is. So, that one was a very colorful, review for ReZero, and I guess let's go over this. Let's break this apart a little bit. So, what you can clearly see by this individual when they were talking about it, the series is clearly not for them. Obviously, okay? But, one thing I do want to point out about this review is they want to mention how there is a lot of slice of life, and then a crazy plot twist at the end. And yes, I will say there is definitely moments within Season 1 of ReZero where there is plot twist. The whole scene where Subaru randomly dies at the end, we don't know who kills him, to, how the first episode goes. I mean, there's always these little twists that happen at the end of the episodes, and this is something that happens in, honestly, a lot of anime. A lot of anime, a lot of manga, a lot of TV shows do this, and it's to garner attention and people to want to watch the next episode. It's a common tactic within writing, literature, making shows. It's not necessarily ReZero's fault, but I'm getting a little bit off topic. I'm rambling a bit. The point is that ReZero isn't just, let's say, slice of life and then a crazy plot twist. There is a lot going on that isn't just summarized as slice of life. There's a lot of character building moments, world building moments, and diving into the psyche of these characters and what is going on in the environment, in the world around them. For instance, one good example of this, at least early on, in ReZero is when Subaru feels like everybody around him, is his enemy, and he starts to feel sick. It's when he's in the mansion for the first time, and he's surrounded by Ram, and he's also surrounded by Amelia, and all of them. He doesn't really know who killed him. He knows that he's getting killed, and he's trying his best to make sure he does not get killed again on this certain date, and the entire episode just shows that he's trying to keep a straight face. He's trying his hardest to do the best he can to his best of his abilities to be able to not die, and he's stressing about it, trying to be a good butler, so to speak, a good worker at the house, but as he continues to push himself, eventually he breaks down, he kind of, passes out a little bit, and Amelia offers him comfort with a lap pillow. Now, despite all these comfy little scenes with that moment, the point is that Subaru was overwhelmed by all the things going on around him, and it wasn't just as simple as a slice-of-life moment within the early parts of the show, and later on as well, but this is a very early example that sometimes, even if it's, let's say, 18 or 20 minutes of slice of life, it really isn't just fully slice of life. It's getting to see a character going through some trauma, because Subaru doesn't want to die. He legit doesn't want to die. He's afraid of dying. It hurts. And nobody, I think, in this world could potentially even relate to the fear and pain of that, I would say, that Subaru goes through. And he obviously experienced this multiple times, and he's scared of it. He does not want to die. He's absolutely horrified. So I think that overall, that little assessment of nothing but slice life and a crazy plot twist, I think that's a little bit inaccurate. I think that it's picking and choosing on one episode or two episodes, and that's about it. As for the final segment of this review, talking about how finally you get a break from all of, let's say, I guess, slice of life and twist, you get an action sequence. And it's very clear by the way this individual goes on to talk about action, is that he's upset that the action only lasts for about 5 seconds, which is obviously an exaggeration, but it's very clear that, this person wants action. Really wants action, but then goes on to say he doesn't like how characters are, talking smack to each other. He doesn't like that whatsoever, and I start to think to myself, like, well, if you like action sequences, that's how a lot of action sequences are in anime and manga. I know everyone, right now, even if you don't like action, you're not going to tell me that pretty much all the action manga and anime out there have it to where characters pause in the middle of a fight and they just start having some dialogue with each other. That happens so often. It's not just, let's say, a ReZero thing, a Dragon Ball thing, it's a shonen thing, it's a seinen thing. It just happens. That's what happens, because with fights, you also have dialogue between the characters as they're confronting each other. And so, the fact that this individual even says that they don't like how there's a constant pause, I'm like, okay, I can understand being annoyed by that, but it's very clear that this individual likes action. And the fact that he's annoyed by the pauses shows that he doesn't even like probably normal action anime as well because of these pauses. So I think this is kind of like, maybe for one, action anime isn't for this individual, but also it's very clear that slice of life isn't for this individual as well. So I don't know what he's exactly searching for, but clearly it's not ReZero. So yeah, that is definitely something I wanted to point out. So let's move on to the next review. I swear to God, I don't get it. I don't get the hype surrounding this show. I feel like this will eventually become like the new SAO, where there is just such a divide in the community in terms of quality. ReZero stumbles early on, but manages to prop itself back up in the middle, but then falls apart worse than ever before. The characters are annoying, bland, given useless backstories, and most of them are just introduced to fill up the screen, and I can compare Subaru and Amelia's romance to Anakin and Padme from Star Wars prequel trilogy, where Subaru would constantly go back to Amelia, or for Amelia, and I could never think of a reason why but Subaru could think of 2000 apparently kill me. The action, for what it's worth, does look good, but I'm a story and character guy mostly. So if it has great action every now and then, but I'm not invested in it, just looks like money wasted. Also, the fact that they haven't even hinted at why Subaru is in the world just off, because I feel like there should be a reason, and whenever something interesting starts to happen or is hinted at, the show completely ignores it. Subaru being pride, but just being like, nah. The villains are extremely weak, not threatening, and given as much screen time as they should have been so they can properly develop, so when the characters are scared over the edgelord, Beetlejuice, you don't understand why, because he is kind of funny. Also, due to semi-cliche nature of the last third of the show, you could just predict the final outcome. Oh, okay, so let's just dive right into this. So I want to point out that this individual talks about how he is a story and character kind of guy, which I can agree with that. I'm that type of individual. I personally prefer a really good story, good character development, and good world building. I'm not someone that necessarily needs, balls to the wall, action-orientated episodes. I just want a really good story, something that I can immerse myself in. Some of my favorite moments of ReZero is literally just the characters talking. I love that. That is something I love about ReZero, and I think many people can agree ReZero's strongest moments is stuff like that. Now, obviously, it's clear that this individual wants stuff like that, but then goes on at the beginning of the review to say that he feels like all the characters are bland and given useless backstories. That little wording right there instantly is like, huh? Okay, so you're a character story type of guy, but then soon as a character is getting development and getting characterization, you think that it's worthless. It's like, that's not how that works, because every character, theoretically, when the story first begins, is one-dimensional / bland or cardboard, because you don't know who the characters are, they're just getting introduced, you don't know why they're doing the things they're doing within a story. This goes for every story out there, not just ReZero. When a character's introduced, you don't know about them. And the fact that the person instantly is like, every character's bland, and then when they're given development, he calls them bland or the backstories are useless, like, what do you want? I thought you were a story character type of guy, because that's clearly not what you are if you are that pressed about, backstories, etc. That seems a little bit off to me. Now, in terms of the Amelia and Subaru romance, I will comment on this one, because this is obviously a huge dividing factor of the ReZero fanbase, even for fans of the series. I do think that people obviously are upset that despite all the options around Subaru, for instance, like Rim, for a good example, and I'm assuming this individual is really upset that he chose Amelia over Rim, I think that Amelia and Subaru, yes, I can understand why people wouldn't like those two being together with the first season. It's understandable. But at the same time, when you take a hard look at it and you want to dive into the nitty-gritty of the story, what is being conveyed to the audience that's watching it or the readers, is that Subaru is a guy that loves who he loves. You can't change who he loves. That's the first thing. But he always, had this crush on elf and, silver-haired individuals. It shows in multiple examples. He's talked about it throughout Season 1 and then even Season 2, but obviously this is a Season 1 review. And on top of that, Subaru, he met someone when he was at his lowest, like when he got into this world, he was about to potentially die, someone came out of nowhere and saved him. And that instantly made him very happy, and he wanted to associate with Amelia thanks to that. And what really reconfirmed these feelings and made him really attached to her was that at the end of the first episode, he dies, with Amelia right next to him, his blood linking with her, him grabbing her hand as he's bleeding out, about to start his first loop within the story. That type of moment, that trauma, will stick with you, because he doesn't forget. And that moment, from that point onward, basically, it changed Subaru, because it was like, I don't want this person that was so kind to me, so sweet to me, that came out of nowhere to save my day, like to save me from what's going on, die. A very gruesome and horrid death. And it was a very emotional moment for Subaru. But then, on top of that, thanks to the weight of Subaru, kind of looping and going back, the first loop where he met Amelia and she saved him never technically happened, ever again. And so that point of history was forever lost, and the only one that would ever remember that would be Subaru. And so he harbors that first exchange within his own heart that nobody else knows about besides himself, and he holds it as a very treasured memory. And I think that obviously it's a big reason why he obviously chases after Amelia. It was his first love and someone he cares about. There's nothing more complex than that. And I think that overall, if you don't like Amelia and Subaru, that's fine. It's completely fine. I understand, because first season definitely made you want to like Rim more than Amelia. But that was the whole point, because technically Season 1 of ReZero is more of a prologue, so to speak, to anything else, because literally it's just setting up Subaru's character for the events to come. But I'm getting a little bit off track of, or off topic of what, I want to discuss. Anyways, going into the next part of it, the individual says that the villains are extremely weak and not threatening. That... Okay, I know this comes down to personal taste in villains and, like, how you feel about something. I can understand that one. I'm willing to understand that. But I don't know how someone could say that, like, Beetlejuice, that, yes, he is funny, he does have some funny moments, is not threatening. Literally, his introduction was turning Rim into a twister mat. Like, bro, like, the man is messed up. Like, legitimately, the first encounter with him, like, he does some of this deranged things to Subaru and Rim, and it's horrifying because he was a good representation of insanity. Because he had this emotion or atmosphere about him that was like, I'm a funny, happy guy. I'm called Sloth and all that. I'm able to look like I'm funny or creepy. But then all of a sudden, when he really puts his mind together, the pieces start to click. He does this deranged and absolute evil stuff, and it's just like, yo. And that really captured, like, you don't know what he's gonna do next, because crazy people, you don't know what they're really going to do, and he was like that. And so I felt like, his introduction is easily one of my favorite villain introductions I've ever seen in an anime. That's my 2 cents on that. I know not everybody's gonna agree with me, but I really do think that Beetlejuice's introduction is just horrifying. And that scene still sticks and plays into my head every so often when I think about ReZero, because it is just absolutely iconic. But, yeah, let's move on. This one is probably the highest disappointment value of any anime I have ever seen. You go in expecting a good story, and for the first couple of episodes, the writing is pretty good. But then something happens, and the writers suddenly start to destroy the show, turning it into a ridiculous, nonsensical, annoying joke. The characters start to act absolutely with each new episode. Subaru becomes the unbearable, annoying The story itself loses its grip on its own narrative. Most of each episode, all they show you is filler conversations with over-the-top drama that goes nowhere but creates more drama. They don't tell you about the world except vague references to some witch. That's it. That's all they tell you about the world for 25 episodes. You go like, what was that? I like the art and the character designs, but this was the greatest disappointment. I didn't even see this coming. 4 out of 10 for actually a good premise. It could have been epic, but it came out totally. Don't bother watching it. All those who like this anime clearly didn't do it for the story, because there's no story. It's something about picking a new queen, but they literally don't tell you what is going on or why, and they actually don't elect any queen this season. There's a lot of talking, annoyingly loud, a lot of annoying crying time sinks, and a couple of unimpressive, over-the-top, gory moments, which feel forced, unnatural, and pointless. Also, the whatever romantic arcs they were trying to create, it came out weird, cringe, and unbelievable. Subaru is a loser. He doesn't grow or change over these 25 episodes, he whines a lot, and he seems like an intellectual handicap. I mean, this is all just a horribly written anime. I'm not going to watch the second season. Whoa, that is a very strong opinion on ReZero here. So, I guess let's just talk about the man calling all the conversations filler, annoying, over-the-top drama. Look, if you feel that way about a series, like if you don't like conversations or dialogue that's expressing and giving development to the characters, and even drama, the series isn't for you. Simple as that. That just cut, cold and dry. That's literally what it means. Like, if you don't like conversations between characters, and your brain needs action to be able to be stimulated, you shouldn't watch ReZero. Simple as that. And on top of this, the individual saying that he didn't even know what was going on except vague references to the witch. I'm like, bro, were you not watching? And here's the thing I want to say about this, okay? ReZero is more of a show, don't tell type of story. It will showcase things in the background or on screen and it won't actually elaborate on it. It expects the viewer to be smart enough to piece things together. It's not going to just straight up tell you, and which is the beauty, but also the problem with ReZero in a lot of people's eyes, because obviously the animators at White Fox, when they were making ReZero, and also Tape, that wrote, the series, believed that the audience would be smart enough to piece things together. Obviously, you will always have these individuals that just read the subtitles, they don't look any deeper than that, and that's about it. And, they don't really see what's really going on in the grand scheme of things. I mean, for the individual to basically say that useless filler conversations and overtop the drama is basically worthless, it basically means that he wasn't really paying attention or caring about the conversations to begin with, that was setting up things for the grand scheme of things. So overall, that just says enough about this individual's opinion. But then on top of that, saying that Subaru is just annoying, loud, and crying, etc., I am, to an extent, I will agree with that. If we're talking about basically early Subaru, yes, he is supposed to be hateable, he's supposed to be hated by the watchers, and he is a very flawed character. Very flawed. And that doesn't mean he's a bad character. He's just a very flawed individual that obviously just is like, you want to hate him. But as you see him down in the dumps, he's literally in the trash bin, he tries to worm his way out in any way he can towards the end of Season 1, and continues this development literally into the current events of the light novel / web novel. He has actively grown as a character. He is night and day from his starting point of Season 1. And the fact that the individual thinks it's annoying for someone to cry, etc., I want to talk about that first. It's not just this individual, but I notice a lot of people, not just for anime, but just any form of general media, when a character cries, especially like a guy, they instantly say, oh, this is so, why is he crying? It's annoying. Oh, he's just weak, etc. He's a crybaby. And it's like, crying shouldn't be put down as much as it is. Crying is, yes, a sign of weakness, but it's where a character is low, down in the dumps, and they're trying to express themselves. I think there is nothing wrong with a character expressing themselves and crying if something really emotional has happened to them. Hell, Subaru has all rights to cry. Yeah, he might be a hateable character, but if you are literally dying over and over and over and over and over again, you're gonna break down and cry. You're not gonna tell me you won't. Common sense. So I don't know how I feel about people always doing that. Like, this is what people said about Deku from My Hero Academia, and they say it from all sorts of characters. Any character that cries within media automatically is labeled a crybaby, it's worthless, etc. But there is just so much more going on there. There's nothing wrong with a character showing weakness. I see nothing wrong with that, and I think because Subaru shows weakness, I'm able to enjoy his character more because of that. He is not an overpowered MC. He is weak, and that's what really is the glory of his character. But, I want to wrap up this video here. I want to talk about some few, reviews of ReZero, low rating reviews. If you guys enjoyed this video, I will do a follow-up video kind of breaking these down and talking about it. If you want me to do another series, well, I might do that in the future as well. But I'll leave this video here. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy it, let me know in the comments below. With that, be safe, stay healthy, Chibi out.